Welcome everyone to Milan Soccer Club, your go-to podcast for everything Rossoneri. I'm Alice, and with me is Paul, our resident Serie A guru. Paul, ready for another roller coaster ride of emotions?
Always, Alice. And this week, it's extra spicy. We're diving headfirst into the aftermath of that Champions League exit against Feyenoord and previewing the crucial Serie A clash against Torino. You know, a must-win game if we want to keep our Champions League dreams alive, or at least avoid a complete meltdown.
Okay, so a lot to unpack. Champions League disappointment still hanging heavy, team morale questionable, and a tough away game against Torino. Give us the quick rundown, Paul. What are the key things we need to be watching for?
Right. So, first and foremost, it's all about the team's reaction. Can they shake off the European heartbreak? We're talking about professional athletes, but, morale is a huge factor. Secondly, Conceicao's tactical choices. There are reports of potential changes in the starting lineup, especially on the right flank. And finally, the Pulisic situation, or should I say, the non-situation, since he's denied any rift with Conceicao. But we'll get into that later. The bottom line is that this game against Torino is absolutely critical for Milan's season. It's about pride, points, and proving they can still compete at the highest level.
Okay, Paul, that's a lot to unpack, especially the team's reaction after such a devastating loss. I mean, we're talking about the Champions League, right? It's not just any competition. How do you even begin to assess the morale of a team after something like that? Is it just about looking at their body language on the field, or is there more to it than that?
It's a really complex thing, Alice. You can't just look at a player's face and say, oh, he's definitely feeling down. It's a combination of factors, right? You've got the immediate disappointment, the fatigue from a grueling schedule, and then the pressure from the fans and the media. Everyone's got an opinion after a loss like that. But I think the most important thing is the internal dynamic within the team. How are the leaders stepping up? Are they encouraging the younger players? Is there a sense of unity, or is everyone pointing fingers? These are the things that really determine how a team bounces back from adversity. And let's be honest, the social media reaction hasn't helped. I've seen some pretty harsh stuff aimed at the players, and that can definitely take its toll. It is not easy being a Milan player. It comes with a lot of baggage. The win is an obligation.
Yeah, the social media aspect is brutal. It's like everyone suddenly becomes an armchair expert. So if the team's hurting and the fans are venting, what can Conceicao realistically do to lift their spirits before this Torino game? Is it all pep talks and team bonding exercises? Or does it come down to tactical tweaks and lineup changes?
It's a mix of both, definitely. I mean, you can't underestimate the power of a good team talk. Getting everyone on the same page, reminding them of their goals, and instilling a sense of belief, that's crucial. But at the same time, you need to make smart tactical decisions. And according to Pianeta Milan, Conceicao is considering some changes, particularly on the right side. They're suggesting that Alex Jimenez might get the nod over Kyle Walker, who's apparently carrying a knock. That could inject some fresh energy and a different dynamic into the team. I think it is a good choice. Walker is great, but when you are in doubt, go with someone hungry to play, and that can move fast.
Okay, so Jimenez in for Walker. That's interesting. And what about Theo Hernández? I saw he got a red card in the Feyenoord game. Is he suspended for the Torino match?
That's the surprising thing, Alice. According to Pianeta Milan, Theo is actually expected to start against Torino, despite the red card. It seems like the suspension only applies to Champions League matches. So, he's available, and Conceicao is likely to stick with him at left back. Some people in the team might disagree, but Theo is a beast, and he can change any game.
Wow, that's a relief. Theo's energy is always vital. What about the rest of the lineup? Any other potential surprises Pianeta Milan is hinting at?
Well, they're predicting Maignan in goal, Tomori and Pavlovic in the center of defense, Fofana and Reinders in midfield, and then Musa, Joao Felix, and Leao supporting Jimenez up front. The big name on the bench, apparently, is Pulisic. Now that's where things get a little complicated.
Complicated how? Because I saw those reports about a potential falling out between him and Conceicao, but then Pulisic himself came out and denied everything. So what's the real story here, Paul?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a media circus, hasn't it? La Repubblica initially reported this supposed rift, claiming that Pulisic had even asked for a transfer because of it. But then, as you said, Pulisic himself took to social media to completely shut down those rumors. He said he's happy at Milan, he's never argued with Conceicao, and he wants to keep fighting for the club. So officially, everything's fine. But you know how it is, Alice. Where there is smoke, there is fire.
Right, exactly. I mean, players rarely come out and publicly criticize their managers, even if there is tension behind the scenes. So, could there still be some underlying issues, even if Pulisic is denying it? And if so, how does that affect his role in the team going forward?
It's possible, yeah. It could be a case of Pulisic wanting to avoid any unnecessary drama, especially after such a disappointing result against Feyenoord. Maybe he just wants to focus on the football and not get caught up in media speculation. But even if there's no major conflict, the fact that he's potentially starting on the bench against Torino is interesting. It could be a tactical decision, or it could be a sign that Conceicao wants to send a message to the team that no one's guaranteed a starting spot, regardless of their reputation. I think it is the second option. The manager has to show power and command the team. Someone has to pay the price.
That's a good point. And speaking of sending messages, what about the other players who are underperforming? Calciomercato.com mentioned that Conceicao and several key leaders are under examination after the Champions League exit. Are we talking about a potential clear-out in the summer if things don't improve?
It's definitely a possibility, Alice. I mean, let's be honest. The Champions League is a huge source of revenue for clubs like Milan. Missing out on it 2 years in a row would be a major financial blow. So, Calciomercato.com is right. Everyone's under pressure to deliver, from Conceicao to the players to the management. They specifically mentioned Leao, Maignan, and Theo Hernández as players who need to step up and show leadership. And if they don't, then yeah, I wouldn't rule out some big changes in the summer. This is a business. The better the results, the better the chances to continue working in the team. Simple as that.
Okay, so the stakes are incredibly high. But let's bring it back to this specific game against Torino. What kind of challenge are we expecting from them? Pianeta Milan has their predicted lineup: Milinkovic-Savic in goal, a four-man defense, Ricci and Linetti in midfield, and then a front three of Lazaro, Vlasic, and Karamo supporting Adams up front. How do they typically play, and what are their main strengths and weaknesses?
Torino under Vanoli are always a tough nut to crack, especially at home. They're well-organized defensively, they're physical, and they're always up for a fight. They're not the most creative team in attack, but they can be dangerous on the counter. The key for Milan will be to control the midfield, dictate the tempo, and not give away any silly free kicks or set pieces. Torino are very good at converting those into goals. Vanoli is known to make his teams very strong defensively, so it will be an interesting challenge for Milan.
So, patience and discipline will be key. And what about Milan's attacking strategy? Are we expecting to see a lot of crosses into the box for Gimenez, or will they try to play through the midfield and create more intricate chances?
I think it'll be a combination of both, Alice. Gimenez is a good target man, but he's not going to win every single header. Milan need to be smart with their crosses, picking out the right moments to deliver the ball into the box. But they also need to use their creativity in midfield to unlock Torino's defense. That's where players like Musa, Joao Felix, and Leao come in. They need to be sharp, decisive, and willing to take risks. It will be a high-tension game where no one will give anything for granted.
Okay, so a balanced approach in attack and defensively. What are the main concerns for Milan? How do they stop Torino from hitting them on the counter?
The key is to be organized and disciplined when they lose the ball. Fofana and Reinders need to be quick to track back and close down the space, and the defenders need to be aware of the runners coming from midfield. They can't afford to switch off for even a second because Torino will punish them, and Maignan needs to be on his toes, ready to make some big saves if needed. The team's defense starts with the striker. Everyone needs to defend every ball as if it was the last ball.
All right, Paul. So to sum it all up, Milan needs to shake off the Champions League disappointment, make smart tactical decisions, and be clinical in both attack and defense. High stakes, tough opponent, and a whole lot of pressure. Any final thoughts or predictions before we wrap up?
Yeah, Alice, I think this is going to be a really tight game. Torino are always a tough opponent, and Milan are still reeling from that loss against Feyenoord. I'm expecting a low-scoring affair, maybe a 1-0 win for Milan if they can find that extra bit of quality in the final third. But honestly, anything can happen. The most important thing is that Milan shows some fight, some passion, and some belief. The fans deserve it after everything they've been through this week. I think it is going to be one of the most important matches of the year.
Well, let's hope they can deliver. Thanks for the insightful preview, Paul. And to everyone listening, be sure to tune in on Saturday to see if Milan can pull off the win. This is Alice, signing off for Milan Soccer Club. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week to break down all the action. Forza Milan!